everyone, it's Amanda. Today I'm going to show you how to graft sock toes. I've made these nice cabled socks and now I just have to finish them up here at the toes. So first of all, I have my stitches divided into halves, half on each needle, which was easy because I knit these on the magic loop. And now I just need to cut my yarn, leaving a tail about 4 times the length of the area to graft, plus a little extra for sewing in. And then I'm going to use my blunt yarn darner so that I can sew the stitches. Okay, so to graft, we work in pairs of stitches. Pairs on the front, and then a pair on the back, pair on the front, pair on the back, and always the pairs overlap each other. And there's a simple pattern to follow. So I'm going to show you how to do this in what I think is the easy way. You can let me know if you agree with me or not. To start though, we have a setup. So I'm just going to work this stitch and then this stitch once, and then they'll become part of their pair after we set them up. So the way I always remember how to start the setup is the yarn is coming off the back needle. So I'm going to start by sewing the stitch on the front needle because I want this to join. And then the path of least resistance is to just go through this stitch purlwise. So purlwise through the first stitch on the closest needle. And I'm going to always keep the sewing yarn under my needles and above my knitting. So purlwise, and because I just did purlwise, I'm going to do knitwise on the back needle. So I'm going to put my darning needle in knitwise, that means from the left towards the back. And I'm going to pull the yarn through, but remember I said this yarn always has to stay below the needles and above the knitting. So we pull, and I don't have to pull it really tight, I just want to pull it so it's not loose but not really tight either. Okay, now I'm going to start the pairs. So the pairs are always going to be the same on the front needle. They're always going to be knitwise and then slip it off, purlwise, leave it on. And then on the back needle, it will always be purlwise, slip it off, knitwise, leave it on. So you'll see, we'll do it. Okay, so, and the way not to lose your place in the middle of a pair is to do it all kind of in one step. So first I'm going to put my needle knitwise in the first stitch and take it off, but I'm leaving it on the darning needle. And then I'm going to go in purlwise through the second stitch. So I've got both stitches there, and then I'm going to leave that on and pull the yarn through. That's the first. Now the back pair, purlwise, take it off, and then knitwise, leave it on, and then pull the yarn through. Always remembering to keep it under the needles and above the knitting. Okay, it looks a little twisty and funny here at first, but that's okay. Alright, and then we're back to the front needle again. So knitwise, take it off, purlwise, leave it on, pull the yarn through. Back needle, purlwise, take it off, knitwise, leave it on, pull the yarn through. Okay, keeping the yarn above the knitting and below the needles. Now, if you get interrupted partway through your grafting and you can't remember where you were, look for where the yarn is coming through. So this yarn is attached in that back stitch there, and because I'm always working my pairs at the same time, not pausing in between each stitch in the pair, I know that because I'm attached to the back needle here, I should come to the front needle for my next pair. So, and the front needle is always knitwise, take it off, purlwise, leave it on, pull the yarn through. Now the way I remember this is that on the front needle it's usually in stockinette, it's the knits that are facing me, so I start with knitwise. Now the back, the purls are facing me, so I'm going to start the pair with purlwise. So purlwise, take it off, knitwise, leave it on, pull the yarn through. Make sure you get through the stitch completely, don't split the yarn, because then you will have a very untidy grafting. So front needle, knits are looking at me, we start with knitwise, take it off, do the opposite, purlwise, leave it on. So each pair contains a knitwise and a purlwise, just in different orders. And if you notice, I finished with the purlwise here, and I'm going to start with the purlwise and end with the knitwise here. So purlwise, take it off, knitwise, leave it on. When I first learned to graft, I learned to do it with the pairs divided. So it would be like knitwise, take it off, and then pull the yarn through, and then purlwise, leave it on, and then pull the yarn through. And then, but when I do it that way, it takes me twice as long because I have to pull twice as many times, and it's also really easy to get lost in the middle of a pair and not remember what you are doing next. So when you do it this way, always keeping the pairs together, I lose my place a lot less and everything's so much easier. Here we go. So we're almost done here. Knitwise off, purlwise on. Purlwise off, knitwise on. Oh, and I don't want to let it loop around. There we go. Knitwise off, purlwise on. Purlwise off, knitwise on. Okay, and now I'm left with just one stitch on each needle at the end here. So you have two choices. You can either just pull your needles out right now and kind of tug and arrange. I find that's the way to avoid the ears that everybody hates, is to just stop early. But then you just have to make sure that when you tuck your end in, you tuck it in a way that kind of folds that last stitch over so that it is, so it's kind of camouflaged, right? Okay, and also at this point, hang on, let me just put my hand up inside the sock. Now I go back over my grafting row just to neaten it up. So see at the beginning here, things are pretty loose. You can tell if the stitches are loose because they're actually bigger than the fabric around them. So the goal is to have them be the same size as these other actual knit stitches. So I'm just going to go back to the beginning, and half a stitch at a time, I'm just going to give the yarn a tug to even it up. This is another really great way to get rid of the ears at the corners if you tug it so that it's even a little tighter at the corners, just a little. Because if you tug it too tight, then your grafting will kind of suck inside and look like a seam. So we're wanting invisible, right? So camouflage. Here we go. Okay, good. Those are looking like the fabric now. So we're almost done. I'm just tugging on each half of the V with my darning needle. There we go, we're almost to the end. Still looks good, excellent. That last one is kind of funny. Let's see. Good, and now we're so close I can just pull on that last bit. Okay, so I still have that half stitch there, so I'm just gonna fold it over, and this seems to be the right positioning to tuck it in. So I'm gonna poke my yarn through and pull it all the way through. There, that looks pretty good. Okay, and then my toes are grafted. Now, they still look a little square, but that's just kind of the nature of the fabric, because really, if you think about it, we went from decreasing here to a straight seam, so that's just going to naturally make corners. But the good news is that with blocking, or even just when you put these on your feet, if you haven't made your socks too long, your toes will just naturally push out and make that into a curve. So, yay for knitting being stretchy. There you go. So I hope you've liked my video on how to do the Kitchener stitch the easy way. If you have any other suggestions or comments, let me know. And if you found this video useful, please like it and consider subscribing to my Knitico channel. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time.